Alrighty, so it's been a minute. It's been almost half a year since my first video about Ethan Klein, 5 months since part 2 on Nicholas Diorio's channel. We had a lot to say about Ethan from the past 5 years or so of his career, with criticism steadily mounting towards the man who was basically considered a YouTube god until Gokunaru's Video Vigilante was released. Nick and I were actually planning to do a video about Ethan Klein for about a month, when all of a sudden, Ethan announced his content nuke video about Keemstar would be coming out the following day, which by all metrics created a perfect storm for our video to come out. As of now, it's one of the most popular videos on my channel, and one of the most popular videos criticizing Ethan Klein in general, with its hour-long runtime doing what I consider to be a pretty good job of going over every major controversy from H3H3's time here on YouTube, and giving a pretty even-handed take on it. But, of course, the controversy doesn't stop there. As with most people I cover in my videos, the extent of their naughty behavior doesn't end with my video being posted. Most people who are criticized on YouTube end up displaying a lot of their interesting behavior after people begin to take them apart, and Ethan is absolutely no exception to that rule. Let's take a look, shall we? Ethan's immediate response to the aftermath of the controversy and what we saw as an initial resolution to the conflict was a podcast he did where he responded to Gokunaru's entire video that had been released years prior, finally naming the guy who he had been willfully ignoring for so long and addressing most of the points from the video, even going as far as to correct what he saw as some inaccuracies.
That, by the way, Pyro read, and everybody read, right? Leafy says, like 10 YouTubers has brought up the titles thing to me. Yeah, don't worry, it was like 10 other YouTubers. Do you want me to bring up the overlap? He's making a video and talking with other YouTubers about making videos about him.
This is something that, at the time, we all saw as a completely respectable move and something to be praised. Someone honestly and openly responding to criticism, however late it may have been, was definitely nice to see, and we appreciated it a lot. Another thing that we were really glad to see was Ethan taking steps to help the community, even though many of them had been critical of him. On July 1st of 2020, a number of YouTube channels were stripped of their monetization, with every video on their channels receiving the yellow limited ad status, meaning that they will make significantly less money. For people who rely on YouTube as a job, this was terrifying. And personally, as one of the people who had this happen to their videos, I was absolutely shitting myself at the time. Other channels and friends of mine like Boblax, Nicholas Diorio, and Augie RFC all faced monetization issues as well, with what seemed to be some kind of targeted move towards commentary channels on YouTube.
The YouTuber Turkey Tom tweeted out here saying, just when my channel was starting to make me some money, YouTube gave me limited ads on every video. Why do I even try? The YouTuber known as Irate Alex tweeted out here saying, so every single video of mine has been hit with the yellow symbol of demonetization, even ones that have been reviewed and confirmed by manual review as okay for ads. Team YouTube, what did I do?
Things were looking very grim for a lot of us. With no major contact at YouTube to get it fixed, we were basically left grasping for reasons as to why this happened and if we would be able to restore our channels and continue doing YouTube as a job. Luckily for us, the two people who had been sworn enemies for the past few years on YouTube and had just come out of one of the most toxic situations to ever grace the website both decided that it was their day to shine. Both Keemstar and Ethan Klein came in clutch for us, reaching out to YouTube to get the issue fixed. Over the last week, many commentary channels got their entire channels demonetized. I would like to thank these bottom feeders for sacrificing ads for us big guys. I appreciate you. I'll try to find out why, guys. Sorry this happened. And Ethan Klein said this: I've been in contact with YouTube to help fix the demonetization issue that's been affecting a lot of creators. I got word that Creepshow art is fixed. Can you provide me a list of every channel being affected? And they said they'll fix it all by Monday. At the time, I even tweeted this: credit where credit is due, Ethan Klein and Keemstar got monetization back on my channel and all of my friends' channels. Good to see the community come together for once. This seemed to be Ethan standing up for everything we had wanted him to the entire time, and being an advocate for the community he helped build. Unfortunately, this would mark the end of a very short winning streak, as Ethan turned his gaze right back to the man he loves to hate. His first step in continuing his vendetta was to push any of the people who may deter him out of the way. His method of doing so being to start blocking commentators en masse. On August 21st, I was blocked, Boblax was blocked, Nick was blocked. We all got the boot from being able to see his tweets. If his reason for this was to slightly inconvenience us when it comes to gathering tweets for our videos, well, congratulations, Ethan, you've succeeded.
You fool! I have 70 alternative accounts!
But blocking someone on Twitter or a bunch of people isn't really anything terrible or bad. I have some people blocked on Twitter purely for the reason that some of the people in my replies are very annoying and I don't want to see their tweets ever again. So it's completely understandable that if people hounding him after every other tweet was causing him any anxiety or he felt he didn't really want to deal with the criticism via Twitter, then he would block us. It's what happened after he blocked us that I really care about. We've already seen the desperate depths that Ethan will go to in an attempt to strike back at someone like Keem, with him going after his sponsors and pinning the tragic death of YouTuber Etika on him. Based on that, you would probably think that it couldn't get any worse. Could you imagine if, in his desperation to get at Keemstar and the commentary community, Ethan platformed a doxer who has allegedly sent some very illegal content to public Discord servers in order to try and incriminate the people in them? It may seem unrealistic, and to people who hate Ethan, the very idea of it would be too good to be true. On an August 27th episode of the H3 podcast, Ethan covered what he saw as a story about how Keemstar is a deplatformer in sheepskin, claiming to not want to deplatform people while simultaneously destroying people's careers. As for whose career he destroyed, that would be a former trolling YouTuber by the name of Britbong Returns, or Mr. BTFO.
I would like to draw your attention to one video of Keemstar talking to a man named Britbong. In fact, I'll let this video speak for itself. And just remember, if Keemstar's channel ever does get banned, just play him this video.
Mainly I had to change my name because people were literally non-stop trying to flag me down. I've had people targeting me, impersonating me, trying to get into my accounts and go after me and my family. And partially, some of this is due to Keemstar. Because I made a video on one of his friends, he went after me big time.
I have been like fucking with you non-stop, taking down your Twitches, taking down your Twitters, taking down every social media platform you have,
Can you turn it up a little bit?
And I've been owning you.
He went after everything. He went after anything that I could make money online, tried to get me taken off Stream Me when he owned a percentage. He went after my Twitter, my YouTube, my Twitch, and I was doing really well on all of these, by the way. He is just non-stop had people going after me.
So what do you call it when you are celebrating the removal of someone from Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and every platform? What do you call that?
Deplatforming.
That's what it's called. It's called deplatforming. Also, I would like to note that he is celebrating. He is groveling in his victory. Yes, Keemstar, the champion of free speech.
Now on its own, this clip looks extremely bad for Keemstar. I mean, Christ, he seems straight up evil in this clip. However, as is usually the case with Ethan, the devil is in the details. Britbong is someone who was known for doxing a number of people back in 2015 and 2016. Most notably, his friend Colossal is Crazy.
I could fucking destroy you. I could make you not come online again if I wanted to. But I'd rather not do it. But they're kind of like pushing you to do it, dude. They push you to do it. But really, they should realise that if someone has no platform, nothing to lose, they're an even bigger danger to these cunts, I tell you. The stuff I know about some fucking people, especially a certain person that's noshing off Keemstar right now. I'm not the one to dox people that I used to know, man, but still, you know, Colossal, mate. I know everything about you. I know your dad's name, I know every one of your fucking I know your brother, I know where your brother lives, I know everything about you, mate. Mate, you know, I could do so much stuff.
He's also well known for flagging down people's Twitters for kicks, including Leafy's, for example.
Oh, and by the way, look who I reported on Twitter. Oh, Leafy, what happened, mate? You got banned? Oh, kill yourself, kid. Kill yourself, kid. What's going on, big guy? Did you get banned by any chance? Help me, help me. Did you get banned, mate?
More recently, he's been attacking the communities of people like Augie, raiding his Discord as well as sending some extremely illegal content that I can't say the name of here, lest I be completely demonetized. But rest assured, it's something that is both disgusting and extremely against the law to create, own, and distribute. He's also flagged Augie repeatedly and constantly makes threats about doing so.
Augie, I'm going to give you a chance, mate, and your little bum buddies to retract everything you said, because I'm disproving all this shit over and over again. It's gonna get really fucking bad, bro.
The guy is a sick freak, and I don't think anyone should be taking him seriously. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone more hated by every community he touches.
The fuck is this Britbong fucker?
Let me see. Britbong. Oh, we didn't talk about him. Yeah,
He just
Britbong.
fucking sent me some weird shit.
Yeah, I just got
Kitty porn called. Is he kitty porn? Because I'll call the fucking cops on him.
I think so.
Yo, he said you kitty porn?
Yeah, I'm gonna
so.
go to the police. I'm going to the police.
What did he get? He really did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
want to send it to you, but
Keem, I know. Let's. I can't do it for you. Hold on a second. No, I'm not going to dox him. You know, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this address to this kid who's been victimized by Britbong, and you know they go search his computer. I'm not going to dox anybody.
He is so bad that any alt account he makes is now considered instantly ban-worthy. Keemstar discussed this at length on stream with Leafy and explained why he had all of his stuff taken down.
So, like, there was this guy that took down Clown's Twitter, and he took down Leon Lush's Twitter, he took down Ricky Berwick. I mean, just so many people. Chad, anything for views? I don't want to name the guy's name, but basically he also was like harassing Twitch streamers, just a horrible person, sending false DMCAs and everything. We went into his Discord group where him and his fans were like planning these attacks to like false flag people. We screenshotted everything and we sent it to like all the platforms like YouTube, Twitch, Twitter.
Why was this guy doing this?
Is this deja vu, or did I not catch you out in this lie already? Stop stalking me, you massive freak. It's been 3 years of non-stop bollocks coming out of your snake mouth, all to desperately try to get my attention. Keep it up and I'll just go to the police. I don't give a shit. Not to mention that multiple people have come forward, including Keemstar, to say that Ethan was warned about how bad this guy was, but ran with the story anyway to get at Daniel.
Clown, Nerd, everybody reached out to you and said, don't do that. The guy that you're promoting is a psychopath. The guy that you're promoting sends fake DMC takedowns to YouTubers.
Really, what this is a great example of is just how eager Ethan is to paint Keemstar in a bad light, no matter the cost. There are plenty of things to criticize him for. I've been extremely critical of him in the past, and in the future I intend to keep criticizing him, because the man is extremely flawed and repeatedly does stupid shit that I disagree with. However, not doing your research at all and instead giving a platform to a known doxer like Britbong is nothing short of recklessly irresponsible. This is, of course, assuming that Ethan has no idea what Britbong has done. There is always the possibility that he knows full well what this guy is guilty of and has just avoided acknowledging any of it because it fits his narrative. But because he's been silent, I have no way of knowing for sure. Keemstar is literal human scum. Pass it on. Maybe, just maybe, Ethan, instead of so confidently accusing people of things, you should try to understand the context behind every situation before you use your millions of subscribers to spread misinformation to your audience and give sympathy to doxers. Ethan has also gotten into the habit of criticizing others for platforming people on their podcasts and giving voices to those who are irredeemable human beings. After looking into this particular rabbit hole, every accusation he makes seems to have a certain level of irony. I don't think anything he says should ever be taken seriously. Something that I've always condemned on YouTube is the idea of deplatforming someone for having opinions you don't agree with, or even using their audience in a way that you don't personally like. Unless you are doing demonstrable harm to society by doing something like, let's say, being a convicted predator, I don't see a reason to ban anyone. Ethan used to seem to agree with this, a stance which in recent times he appears to have completely backed away from in favor of being a mouthpiece for YouTube's terms of service. Likely because of the benefits that the website affords him as a popular and well-connected creator with direct contact to the company's higher-ups. As we all know, on August 21st of 2020, Leafy's channel was deleted from YouTube by the website itself. A lot of the community was up in arms about this, as even though it was expected, it was still disappointing to see someone who is so important to the site's history and culture be deleted. Ethan's immediate response was not to disagree with YouTube's stance. It seemed that he was more excited to take the opportunity to say, "I told you so" to everyone.
You know, as the host of the number 27 podcast of the United States, I am obligated to tweet this out because it's written like poetry. I mean, come on.
Please shut the fuck up.
It was ironic that he nuked himself because you got to understand the power of nuclear energy. You can't just have a Manhattan Project and not know how to handle the material safely, because he tried to destroy Pokey, but in the end, Leafy's channel's banned.
Yeah.
Just something that's kind of funny to point out. I love and appreciate the member support. It's so helpful at this time when we're losing pretty much. I mean, we've probably lost like 80% of our sponsors. He tried to destroy Pokey, but in the end, Leafy's channel's banned. I mean, we've probably lost like 80% of our sponsors. Just something that's kind of funny to point out. Kind of funny to point out. Kind of funny to point out.
To pretend as if what Leafy was doing was insane and irresponsible and what you are doing is just fine is pretty ironic to me, Ethan, especially considering how well he seemed to express relative indifference towards Pokimane outside of his videos, and how most of the videos he made with her in the title had nothing to do with her. You made hours of content on Keemstar on your main channel, hours on your podcast channel, and you tweet about him constantly. Leafy isn't the one encouraging people to go after each other's sponsors, which undoubtedly contributed to a much more toxic state of YouTube this past year. I think one of the clear differences between you and Leafy is that you have the connections and he does not. And to say that you have such a great grasp on drama and how to handle the content, Nuke, is a little funny as well because, I mean, as you said, you lost
80% of our sponsors.
How tragic. He also says that he doesn't encourage Leafy being banned.
And then some people were saying that you're celebrating his ban.
How am I celebrating?
And then went through every reason on his podcast as to why he feels that the ban was justified.
So it looks like we're already up to 2 strikes with misleading thumbnails. We've got death threats on Twitter. We've got harassment, 15 videos about someone.
I would honestly rather him just say outright that he wants him to be banned than what feels like this weird tiptoe around the subject on the podcast. But you may not be convinced that he wants Leafy to lose his channel after seeing all of this. It may just not be enough to understand how much contempt he has for this guy. Ethan tweeted out a clip from one of Keemstar's videos where he had a conversation with Leafy, where Leafy jokingly discussed his interaction with people at a protest and how he hopes someone provokes him to use his firearm.
I just want one day in my life for someone to give me an excuse to shoot them. Is that an extreme opinion? Probably. That was a late laugh, dude.
Now, I believe that this was a joke, and Leafy does not actually want to draw his gun. I think he was not being completely serious, but I'm not going to pretend like him saying this looks good at all, or that Keemstar should have posted it onto his story fire. Ethan continued to make similar tweets, essentially accusing Leafy of being a danger to the platform, and perhaps others by highlighting some comments people had made on the posts. I think that this combined with the clips of Ethan clearly justifying his termination is enough to say that he's completely fine with YouTube getting rid of his channel. What other reason would there be to draw attention to these posts and accuse him of being some sort of threat? And unfortunately, by Ethan's own logic, perhaps he and iDub should be removed from the website as well.
Pretty good. I think if there was a politician on the other end of that, they'd probably be down.
I don't think we can say that. Whoa! Take that, Joe. City Council.
I would be very disturbed and actually scared for myself.
Wow, Ethan, this is truly some disturbing content you've posted. It's just poetic, isn't it? Now that we've covered his interactions with people who he was already arguing with at the time of this video, let's take a look at the people he's picked fights with more recently. In particular, none other than
Flashback Mary.
Hi, sisters!
Shut the fuck up.
Our story here begins on September 17th, when Ethan tweeted out an accusation to James Charles accusing him of ripping off his hoodie. I know we didn't invent color blocking, but I'm having a hard time with the new James Charles merch. It's the same exact design as Ela's. Combined with the fact that his audience is so huge, many people will assume he designed it and start accusing us of plagiarism. What do you think? This was the first in a saga of many tweets that Ethan made about James, accusing him of completely ripping off his brand.
By the way, you can compare ass to ass and decide for yourself who is a fatter ass. And I do want to preface this by saying that I have nothing personal about James Charles. And my intention with this of calling him out was not, I really, really wanted to avoid drama. And that's why I private messaged him before going public with this. But like, the thing is, I mean, you guys know because you guys are fans, but a lot of people don't understand is that that hoodie is like our most iconic piece.
He would later be joined by Ela and a few other celebrities, giving their thoughts and expressing to Ethan that they felt he was ripped off. Guess I might as well share some behind the scenes. This is my first sketch of the color block hoodie from 2017 when we had a logo for Teddy Fresh, and in the other pic is the pink one. This is usually how I work on our color palettes. This Twitter campaign would accumulate hundreds of thousands of likes and retweets, with many people coming to both the aid of Ethan Klein and the defense of James Charles.
Alex Search responds to H3 by saying, 100% ripoff, bro. You're selling Teddy Fresh. He is selling Teddy Stale. Ethan responds, Thank you, Mr. Hirsch.
Ethan also posted private DMs between him and James where it's clear that James does see the similarities between the two hoodies and he is willing to talk to Ethan about finding a solution. I am completely comfortable saying that these hoodies are extremely similar and the colors do seem to be basically the same. I'd even go as far as to say whoever designed this hoodie, whether it be James or one of his employees, clearly saw the Teddy Fresh one and thought it was neat. And while I can't pretend to be a fashion expert or claim to have any expertise on the subject, I also think that what Ethan is saying here is fucking stupid. I don't see a few colors separated on a hoodie as a particularly worthy artistic endeavor. It doesn't take a lot of time and isn't anything revolutionary in the fashion world, as Ethan himself admitted. They did not create the trend of color blocking, nor did they invent the style of hoodie that they are going for here where the arms are a separate color from the body, etc. The real question you have to ask here is, in the fashion world, what actually constitutes plagiarism? Is Adidas ripping off Nike because they have track pants with 2 stripes on them? Are metal bands ripping each other off because the t-shirts are black with a white logo? What about Ethan and Hila's hoodie makes it unique? I'd argue, basically nothing. What you pay for when you buy a Teddy Fresh hoodie or shirt, as opposed to buying it from anywhere else, is a brand. You get to know that you are purchasing from a name brand in the industry that a lot of people appreciate, as much as you would buy something from Nike or Adidas. I'd argue, much like Nike or Adidas have a lot of extremely similar clothing, Teddy Fresh and other YouTuber brands also have a lot of other similar clothing and themes in them, and the people buying them are buying them for the people and the brands behind them, not the clothing themselves or the designs. This Teddy Fresh hoodie is nothing special, and Ethan should not be as vindictive as he is towards James for hopping on a fashion trend that he and his wife themselves rode to success. His hatred of James took an interesting turn when he decided to, become James. Over the next few weeks, Ethan would shift his appearance drastically, going from dressing like James Charles to Jeffree Star to completely shaving his head and eyebrows. What came out on the other side is something that I unfortunately cannot describe because, under the new and improved YouTube terms of service, we respect everyone's appearance, regardless of some of the ghastly morphs that they may go through. I think rather than say something that may get this video removed, I would rather just show all of you exactly what he's been up to. I apologize for showing this next one. I've censored it, but you can imagine you'll be able to see, I guess just click off right now if you don't want to see Ethan Klein wearing makeup and sunbathing with his ass in frame. I'm not sure what's going on here. I honestly think this bit isn't very funny and it's just kind of unsettling. Maybe a padded cell isn't such a bad idea after all, Ethan.
Okay, on October 21st, Ethan Klein released the 5th installment of his series Content Court. In this series, Ethan Klein plays a judge character who is fed information by his team relating to a controversial figure in the YouTube space. These episodes often average out to around an hour to a 2-hour runtime, and they often see an average of about 500,000 views per episode at the time of this recording. The target of this video is Jeremy of The Quartering, and when I say this was the most boring drama of the entire year, I'm not being hyperbolic. Besides Jeremy's responses to this, which by the way need to be played at a minimum of 2 times speed, the podcast episode itself was an absolute chore to get through, coming in at a nearly 2-hour runtime. He likely could have cut this thing down about an hour or so if he just removed all the dead air and awkward silence. It's like he took every criticism of the main H3 podcast and thought, let's do all of those things, prepare even less than before, and lean heavily on the employees around him. In this podcast, Ethan Klein levies some fair criticism and makes a few jokes that, well, actually landed. However, that's of course not all. The popular criticisms levied are how Ethan heavily implied that The Quartering is a white supremacist, how he implied that The Quartering is a pedophile, how he weaponized the death of Chadwick Boseman, and how he allegedly insults Jeremy's wife. Let's quickly run through these, as some of them, in my opinion, are ridiculous, and others are incredibly valuable critiques. In regards to the allegation that Ethan insults Jeremy's wife, this one's mostly untrue. I don't think there's a single point where Ethan targets a physical trait of The Quartering's wife in this video. While she is mentioned in the podcast multiple times, most of these shots taken by the H3 podcast crew were obviously making Jeremy the target of the joke.
He sits in the back seat of his wife's car. She doesn't allow him in the front seat. He's forced to sit in the back seat. Yeah, you think Brie bought that for you? You know your wife controls all the finances. You don't even have a credit card, bro.
The statement that Jeremy gave was obviously a knee-jerk reaction to reading comments on Twitter and watching cherry-picked clips before he actually sat down and watched what Ethan was saying. That being said, I do find it interesting that Ethan would bring up Jeremy's wife so much, as the comments made about Hila have been a point of contention in his own drama. I personally wouldn't throw stones from my glass house. However, with that being said, The argument that the insults directed specifically at Hila are somehow a one-by-one comparison to the comments Ethan made mentioning Jeremy's wife is a completely disingenuous argument, and it's much of the same in regards to the allegation that Ethan called Jeremy a pedophile.
He got banned from Magic the Gathering and then tried to run a story about how they're harboring pedophiles.
Right.
He's like, I know, I am that pedophile. I was a member of that community for years. Something tells me that Harvey Weinstein is legit one of Jeremy's, like, role models.
This was a joke, and although Ethan's horrendous delivery made it less clear than it should have been, and the fact that you can definitely consider these jokes to be in poor taste, they were just that, jokes. If you want to get all up in arms, that's your prerogative, but in my opinion, it's just a smaller nitpick that distracts from two more significant arguments. In regards to the allegation that Ethan Klein called Jeremy a white supremacist, well, he basically did.
This is a primary problem I have with labels. It's a problem I have with labeling myself with any political ideology, and I don't label myself by something as absurd as the color of my skin. Something I had zero control.
Yeah, this is kind of a classic argument that you see. I don't want to say white supremacist, but it's like a super obtuse way of looking at skin. And
in true slimy H3H3 fashion, Ethan starts off by making comments about how Jeremy is making a classic white supremacist argument, but lets out an audible sigh and stops himself just before saying,
I don't want to say white supremacist, but being proud of being white is like, you know, white supremacy. Like, let's be honest, that's the heritage.
I find it funny that Jeremy's entire argument was that he doesn't label himself based on skin color and states that he's not proud of it. Why Ethan's brain immediately went to white supremacist talking point is beyond me. If he was such a supremacist, I don't think he would have said that he's not proud of his race because it's a factor outside of his control.
I don't want to say white supremacist, but
I am, of course, a white supremacist.
Wow. He literally just came out and said that. I didn't say that.
This is Ethan's classic maneuver of walking directly up to the door, heavily implying something, and getting on his podcast to bitch and complain about it later because he didn't explicitly say what he wasn't so subtle about implying.
And then the other thing is he says I called him a white supremacist, and he didn't timestamp that, but let's be honest.
That one's true.
He kind of is. You know what I mean?
He's not going to contest that one.
Yeah, he's like, well, yeah. That's kind of the point of my channel. Yeah.
I am, of course, a white supremacist.
Right, he said it himself. You see that?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. This time he actually just flat out admits that he thinks Jeremy is a white supremacist, which is irrationally stupid. If you're gonna make the argument that he's grifting or appealing to outrage culture for monetary gain, we can spend hours talking about how that's a more founded argument than just flat out saying, this dude thinks white people are superior and should dominate society. And this takes us to our last point of criticism. This was in relation to how, for the second time in 6 months, Ethan has used a recently deceased person's passing as an opportunity to scribble down another bullet point in his YouTube exposed videos.
Chadwick Boseman's untimely and tragic death, the guy who played Black Panther, this happened in September, and I hope that the quartering can visit each and every one of these kids' houses to tell them how stupid it is that they care about this guy because of his skin color, you know? Here, I'll try to collect addresses.
It's all dumb.
Yeah, I want you to go tell all these kids how dumb they are for caring. You know?
Dumb.
Yeah, dumb. Look at all these idiots caring about Black Panther. It's crazy that they even care. It's pathetic. Go ahead, Jeremy. What do you think about this kid here paying tribute to the Black Panther?
Dumb.
Right.
This review took place in March of 2018, and Chadwick passed away in August of 2020. The video is completely unrelated to anything involving this article that he pulled up only to include as a hyperbolic example that painted Jeremy in the worst light possible. And that's the last thing I'm gonna say on that matter, as this is incredibly similar to what Ethan did in his content nuke video from earlier in the year. I honestly think at this point, he should just rename the series to Content Grave Robbery.
At the end of the day, when all is said and done, when you're tucked in bed waiting for mommy milkers to bring you your cookies and chocolate milk, what is there to be said about Ethan Klein? Ultimately, while his activity since my last video hasn't been particularly out of character for him, it is disappointing to see him continuing down the same path. For a time, it looks like perhaps he was going to turn around and recognize some of his failures as a person, and to an extent he did, but I've had enough disagreements with his behavior since that point that I think the glimpse of hope I saw is now gone. It's obvious that the people he he hates are also those he will go after until the end of time. I think that what he's shown more than anything is that he really doesn't care what we have to say anymore, and he's going to do his best to ignore what his critics have to say about him. And to an extent, I can respect that. I even understand it. There are a lot of times when people saying critical things about me or other people just get ignored because, for one, you can't respond to everything, and secondly, some of it frankly is not worth responding to at all. However, I think there are plenty of fair criticisms of him that I wish he would acknowledge instead of more content court videos. I still don't feel any real hatred towards Ethan, or ill will, I guess, but the overwhelming feeling of disappointment has just been solidified even more, something that a lot of the YouTube community seems to agree with. I'd say it's about time for me to close this chapter of my channel's history. I don't foresee me doing another video about Ethan unless a huge change happens that I think is worth talking about. Frankly, I'm exhausted of the topic and I don't really like thinking about it anymore. So, this is it. Enough is enough. Thanks so much for watching. I've been Turkey Tom, and until next time, leave me alone.